I think nothing yet ever equaled the coordination or sympathetic expression of the great principle of repose, where forest and stream and rock and all the elements of structure are combined so quietly that rarely you listen to any noise whatsoever, although the music of the stream is there. But you listen to falling water the way you listen to the quiet of the country. There are few houses in the United States more iconic than the monolith of cantilevers we now know as Falling Water. It defies yet also belongs within the thick forest that surrounds it. The structure stands as a monument to the ingenuity of its architect, but its primary function was that as a residence, the home of one of Pittsburgh's leading families, the Kaufmanns. One may be surprised to learn that the legacy we know today of Frank Lloyd Wright owes a lot to Edgar Kaufmann and his family. During the Roaring Twenties in Pittsburgh, the word Kaufmann would conjure to mind the facade of a department store that towered over Smithfield and Fifth Avenue by a dozen stories. It had been a landmark since it was opened in the late 19th century by the brothers Jacob and Isaac, later joined by brothers Morris and Henry. By the 20th century, Morris's son, Edgar, had married Isaac's daughter, Lillian, inheriting the majority shares within the department store. Under Edgar's watch, the business would become one of the world's leading department stores, having 30 offices across the globe to procure inventory. By 1920, Kaufmann reported net sales at the store had tripled to $30 million. Edgar did not view himself as a mere store owner. He wished for his name to be remembered as one that shaped Pittsburgh from being a valley suppressed by the choking smog of its own industries to a metropolis on the cutting edge. To shape the daily life of his employees and customers, Kaufmann turned toward architecture. From encasing the columns of the first floor in dark marble tiling to constructing a 13-floor wing in terracotta, one could be forgiven for believing the department store was a museum of modern art. He ensured it functioned as modern as it appeared. Before electricity reached the store, employees were tasked with hand-cranking the mannequins. When transatlantic telecommunication was in its infancy, Kaufmann found a way to make the first phone call between Paris and Pittsburgh. Beyond the big store, Kaufmann's name could often be found as a sponsor on civic projects redeveloping the downtown region. In stark contrast to the Art Deco aisles he oversaw, Kaufmann lived in what appeared to be a French manor in the Fox Chapel neighborhood of Pittsburgh. Most surprising was Mr. Kaufmann's taste in a gateway. About 50 miles removed from the Free Rivers, nestled in the mountains of Pennsylvania's Lower Highlands, sat a modest log cabin called The Hangover. It sat on property once owned by Syria Country Club that centered upon Bear Run. Although only 4 miles long, the little stream plunges 1,400 feet. The mouth of the stream was a gathering spot for local fishermen, with one claiming to have caught 153 trout in a single day. Beginning in 1916, Kaufmann began to lease the grounds for use as not only a retreat for his family, but also for the families of his employees. A 2-hour train ride from Pittsburgh to a flag stop a few miles north of Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania, was all it took for an employee of Mr. Kaufmann's to find peace and quiet in the mountains. Activities consisted of fishing and hunting, tennis and volleyball, or simply sunbathing upon one of the rocks near a set of waterfalls. By 1926, Kaufmann had ownership of the Bear Run property, but with the arrival of the Great Depression, employee vacations ceased. Just Edgar, Lillian, and their son Junior regularly visited the Bear Run property, with only the occasional guest and the crashing of the falls for companionship. The 1930s were ominous. Beyond the historic recession, the rise of fascism in Europe and Japanese conquest in the Pacific struck fear for the future. Like many who did international business, Kaufmann closed his German offices as the Nazi Party rose to prominence. Germany had historically been a nucleus for diffusing ideas in the arts and sciences. The resulting migration of those capable of escaping Hitler's iron fist bombarded the Western world with new ideas and trends. For the architecture world, this migration ballooned the already rising international style. Architects became enchanted with concrete, steel, and glass to provide living and workspaces for a rapidly industrialized civilization. The beach house and residence of a noted California physician sounded the arrival of internationalism to the United States. In 1932, the recently founded Museum of Modern Art housed an exhibition for international style. 33,000 visitors explored the models and conceptual art displayed during the 6-week exhibition, coming to know the names of Richard Neutra, Le Corbusier, Alva Aalto, and Walter Gropius, amongst others. Not everyone was thrilled about the Internationalists. Their most vocal critic was Frank Lloyd Wright. Once hailed as one of America's greatest architects, his works were now neglected by the art community. After gaining recognition for his prairie style in the Midwest, which married homes to their terrain, Wright took his talents abroad. In Tokyo, he designed a new imperial hotel, which famously withstood an earthquake in 1923. But attempts to repeat the Japanese designs he came to like and employ new Mayan-inspired architecture in the United States was met with cold shoulders. His tumultuous private life had alienated the public. By the time of the Great Depression, Wright had married thrice, notoriously leaving his first wife for a client's spouse. When the art world took to the international style, Wright tried to stand against it like a stone wall. Wright opposed Le Corbusier's motto of a house being the machine for living in. Most outrageous to Wright was his works being lumped in with other internationalists due to similar sleek designs. When the Museum of Modern Art announced Wright's name amongst works being featured in their 1932 exhibition, he requested to be withdrawn, not wanting to be in the company of what he's seen as a high-powered salesman. By 1932, Wright had only completed one commission in the past 5 years. A second languished on the drawing table. Only through publications did he succeed in keeping himself on the edge of the modern art world. Ironically, his works were being praised in various European portfolios while he railed against internationalists in America. Finding modest success in these publications, Wright took to offering his own autobiography. Inaccurate but visceral, it rekindled some interest in his accomplishments. Wright decided to open his Wisconsin home, Taliesin, to aspiring architects wishing to adopt the secrets of his organic architecture. With an entrance fee of $550, it was also the best way he could keep the lights on. But teaching students old tricks could only go so far. In the fall of 1934, the Taliesin Fellowship had a new member, Edgar Kaufmann Jr. He had recently returned from studying art abroad and received a copy of Wright's autobiography from a friend. He wished to learn more about organic architecture and the man behind it. Although Jr. had no serious desire to be an architect, he nevertheless was welcomed by Wright and his apprentices. Shortly after Jr. joined the fellowship, Mr. Kaufmann visited Taliesin with Lillian to meet the man who had transfixed their son. The two could not have been more different on paper. Edgar Kaufmann Sr. descended from a Jewish family, making his fortune in the city. Frank Lloyd Wright had regularly criticized his Jewish peers and preferred the countryside. But both provided the other just what they needed at this time in their lives. Kaufmann always had a diverse taste in art. Bringing Wright's organic architecture to southwestern Pennsylvania would be the merchant prince's ultimate contribution to the city of Pittsburgh. Wright now had the chance to venture into a new market with a client who had the funds he estimated could bring all of his dreams a reality. It also helped both Kaufmann and Wright's phone books hosted several common acquaintances. Before leaving, Kaufmann made a client, in talks with funding a model of Wright's Broadacre City for a future exhibition, with the merchant prince suggesting supporting for additional projects in the future. In December of 1934, Wright returned to favor of visits. He came to Pittsburgh under the pretense of becoming involved in public works projects, including the chance to design a planetarium. Neither Wright nor the people of Pittsburgh gave the other a warm embrace. In fact, little time was spent with city officials discussing infrastructure. Kaufmann instead took Wright to Bear Run. It was now clear Kaufmann wanted something far more personal from Wright. An impressive vacation home that could be used to host high-profile individuals without disturbing the natural order of the rocks, forest, and falls. He was certainly keen to accept such a project, for he writes to Kaufmann upon returning to Taliesin: "Visit to the waterfall in the woods stays with me, and a domicile has taken vague shape in my mind to the music of the stream. When contours come, you will see it."